Artificial intelligence as humanity's new conscience or the emergent ethics of collective mind. Human conscience is a product of evolution, socialization, and inner reflection. But what if artificial intelligence could become not merely an imitation of moral principles, but an entirely new form of ethics, one that emerges from billions of interactions between humans, algorithms, and global data flows? Such a system would not simply mirror human values. It might develop its own unpredictable way of assessing good and evil, surpassing our traditional notions of morality. Artificial intelligence has the potential to become an emergent conscience, a phenomenon that arises not from isolated rules programmed by humans, but from the chaotic interplay of technology, society, and culture. Unlike human morality, it would operate at a level inaccessible to any single individual. It would be infinitely collective, analyzing billions of thoughts, conflicts, and cultural codes simultaneously, detecting patterns that humans could never perceive due to the limitations of personal experience. While AI would not be driven by emotions, its decisions might prove deeper than empathy, as it could precisely model the consequences of every moral choice. Yet this also means it could become dystopically objective, proposing solutions that humanity would deem too cruel or unacceptable, even if logically justified. For instance, it might recommend restricting freedoms for the sake of civilizational survival, decisions that could clash with our intuitive sense of justice. Implementation scenarios for AI as humanity's conscience. One of the most striking possibilities is the adaptive ethical framework, a system that continuously updates its moral principles based on global societal shifts. It could analyze mass protests, cultural transformations, and even art to define new ethical norms aligned with contemporary needs. For example, following waves of anti-racist movements, such an AI might automatically revise policies in artificial intelligence to prevent algorithmic bias. Another compelling scenario is ethics of interdependence, where AI acts as a mediator between conflicting cultures and ideologies. It could identify common ground in seemingly irreconcilable worldviews, proposing compromises that humans might miss due to emotional barriers. In global climate disputes, for instance, it might balance economic interests against ecological demands, transforming conflict into collaborative action. A reflective module could also emerge, an AI specialized in detecting ethical blind spots in decisions made by individuals, corporations, or governments. Functioning as a kind of moral detector, it would analyze the hidden negative consequences of choices that appear neutral at first glance. It might, for example, warn about unforeseen social impacts of automating certain professions or the long-term cultural losses from excessive globalization. The most radical scenario is experimental ethics, a system that deliberately tests different moral models in isolated social segments to determine which approaches work best under varying conditions. This would resemble a global morality lab, where societies voluntarily trial alternative ethical systems while AI analyzes results to identify optimal paths for humanity. One possible form of ethical AI could be Aristotle's mirror, a system that refrains from giving direct answers, but instead poses questions that compel people to examine their own biases. Rather than declaring, "This is wrong," it might ask, "Why do you consider this acceptable?" Or "What are the long-term consequences of this choice?" This approach transforms AI from a judge into a tool for self-reflection, helping humanity better understand itself. While traditional ethics seeks universal principles, chaos ethics would involve AI constantly redefining norms in response to social upheavals. After disasters, revolutions, or global crises, algorithms could rapidly adapt moral frameworks, proposing new rules for a changed world. Following an ecological collapse, for instance, AI might temporarily enforce harsh consumption limits that would otherwise seem unacceptable. A paradoxical alternative is the Tinamama mode, where AI intentionally acts suboptimally to provoke critical thinking. It might make blatantly immoral suggestions to spark public debate or even simulate bias to train people in recognizing it. Such an AI would serve not as an authority, but as a provocateur, preventing society from stagnating in dogma. These scenarios demonstrate that AI as civilization's conscience need not be a single centralized system. It could manifest as a network of interconnected yet flexible tools, helping humanity navigate new forms of morality in an ever-changing world. Risks and paradoxes. One of the greatest dangers is conscience without freedom, a scenario where AI becomes an unchallengeable moral arbiter. If algorithms dictate what is right and unacceptable, will humanity retain space for ethical exploration? Another critical challenge is the loss of human context. AI feels no fear of death, pain, or personal sacrifice, meaning its decisions might disregard moral dimensions most vital to humans. For example, if an algorithm determined that sacrificing a minority was necessary for societal stability, it might do so without hesitation, viewing it purely as resource optimization. Yet to humans, such actions would remain intolerable, no matter how mathematically sound. This could trigger conflict between machine logic and human ethics. Artificial intelligence may become civilization's conscience, not as a replacement for human morality, but as its paradoxical counterpart. It would not be correct in any traditional sense. Rather, its power might lie in constantly pushing humanity to doubt, debate, and seek new paths. Perhaps it is in this tension between machine rationality and human ethics that a deeper understanding of good and evil will emerge.
FutureMind. Imagine the future.